What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to the brother Dreamers Pro. All right, so he talked about this yesterday. An update with Stephen A. Smith and his comments involving the Epstein files fiasco. All right. So, man, I guess it's been over a week now since Stephen A. Smith made some comments on, I believe it was Chris Cuomo's show or podcast, whatever it is, where essentially he said, in the grand scheme of things, he doesn't believe that the Jeffrey Epstein list is very important. It's much ado about nothing. And that people are being, at least Trump supporters, are being, in his mind, ungrateful. Saying that, look, Trump has gotten a lot of things done as far as his list, as far as his itinerary is concerned. And why are you guys so concerned about this little thing? I have a life. There are more important things in life, et cetera, right? And obviously, when you look at the fact that this is coming from a guy that talks sports, which, as fun and interesting a topic as that is, you've made your living talking about things that are as trivial can be. And not only that, within the confine of sports, you've made mountains out of molehills when it comes to Kyrie Irving, sending a link to a movie that nobody can even recall. But yet, people were trying to, in your profession, although I will admit he wasn't necessarily one of them in this instance, but you've led to the climate with Kyrie Irving because of his previous stance on the jab, which, when all things considered, now that the evidence has come out, he was probably right, which you never apologize for, but you know, with your raging ego, you never will. But anyway, you and people in your profession spend all the time making mountains out of molehills in sports. So you have people who are generally concerned about the fact that for some reason, this president will not declassify the Epstein list. And it does exist. Thousands of women, countless, young girls were abused by Jeffrey Epstein and a client list that numbers probably in the hundreds of the wealthiest, richest people in the world. And that, by explanation and by design, is why this list has never seen the side of day. The same way why the DC Matters list has never seen the side of the brighter day, because of the people who own that list. Remember, she was on Howard Stern, said she was going to write a book. She was going to name names. She was not in a mood to unalive herself. And then 2 weeks later, guess what, folks? She was unalived. And her little black book went missing. So if you think that if our government doesn't unalive people just for the sake of protecting those who are in power, but yet want little old me and little old you to give a shit about Diddy, yeah, you better kiss my ass, right? So there was a big reaction to Stephen A. Smith. Dreamers Pro called for him to be fired. I agreed. I did a video saying how I agreed he should be fired. Nothing's done. Funny, because he was suspended for saying something that was pretty much common sense 10 years ago, that everybody should keep their hands to themselves when it comes to domestic violence. He was suspended for saying that, but this guy basically says that powerful, rich, creepazoids who prey on children, well, that's not very important. And somehow there's no suspension. But anyway, Stephen A. Smith doubled down on these statements in an interview recently with TMZ.
Do not get mad at me, but we got to put it out there. Just asking. Do you have a message for the people that are mad at your opinion? I know you had an opinion. You felt like Epstein list, okay, we don't care. What do you say to those people that are mad at your opinion? Because it's your opinion and you are entitled to it, but what
I have to say is that I don't care. And the reason that I don't care is because everybody has an opinion, number one. Number two, I get paid for mine. Number three, and most importantly, it's my opinion based on the facts as presented. I'm not getting personal. I'm not deriding or denigrating anybody. I'm just calling it like I see it when asked or when it's a part of my job. That's what I do for a living. And last time I checked, there's a whole bunch of people out here trying to do what I do. So that's...
Well, the problem is, a lot of what you say is not based in fact. It's based on you, in this instance, erroneously reading the room and formulating your opinion based on what you think your audience wants to hear. That's what you do. You profess to be an independent, but magically, most of the time, your views align with those on the right because they're the ones in power. I said before, this guy was a Kamala Harris supporter all the way up until Donald Trump crossed the 270 electoral college vote barrier on election night. And he decided in his mind, okay, well, I'm shifting to the right. If Kamala had won that election and Kamala Harris and the Democrats were in power, he would, at the very least, be a lot more pro-Democrat. But he recognizes the room. And I'm going to tell you something. If ever comes an instance where, say in the midterms, the Democrats make waves and Trump's approval ratings are in the toilet, you're going to all of a sudden hear him become a lot more critical of Trump. But, that's just how I feel about that. But by the way, speaking of Trump, guess what I just found? I found some audio from years ago. I think it was 20 years ago. So this is when Trump would have been about 59, 60 years old. Okay. So he was on the Howard Stern show. And the conversation got to his love for young girls. Talking about Trump. Listen to what Trump says here closely.
What is the best thing about being Donald Trump right now?
Well, other than the fact I'm married, okay?
Right.
And I'm very happily married. I have a great wife. But if I weren't married, I'd be able to get all of the girls I want, except for possibly Robin.
Do you think you could now be banging 24-year-olds?
Oh, absolutely. I have no trouble.
Would you do it?
I have no problem.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you...
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age... I don't want to be
the
like...
upper bracket, yeah.
Foley with, 12-year-olds.
Can I make a prediction for you?
Yes.
I say you have one more marriage in you.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. I'm sure Melania will love to hear that.
Now, I don't know if you heard that correctly, but it sounds to me like when they asked him, do you have an age limit? He said, no, not really. He said, well, I don't want to be only, banging 12-year-olds. That's what he said. That's what the President of the United States, the now President of the United States, said back in 2005. I don't know. I'm just saying, man, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, or quacks like a duck, whatever that saying is. I mean, it's just overwhelming at this point. It's overwhelming. It can no longer be said that he's just a passing acquaintance of Epstein now. There are literally hundreds of photos of this guy in Epstein's company, including on a private plane. So you can't even say that's a mixed company thing. They clearly knew each other. The Wall Street Journal released a letter that he wrote Epstein on his 50th birthday, Epstein's 50th birthday, where Trump wrote some very interesting comments, cryptic information as far as the relationship, in the outline of a naked woman, with his signature being seen as the pubic hair of that cartoon or that drawing outline. And then you just got to look at the fact that the way this guy's been moving, like, if someone accused me of something like this, right, the first thing that you would instinctively do is do everything you can to show that you're not guilty. And if this was just, as Trump supporters love to say, if this was just a bunch of Democrats that were guilty of Epstein, of being on the Epstein list, don't you think that would have been one of the first things Trump would have released? Was showing all these Democrats, all these high-ranking Democratic officials, lawmakers, and donors, and celebrities that, and media members that mostly worship Democrats, right, and vote for Democrats. That would be the first thing I would have did. Especially if I knew that I'm not on that, because I don't get down like that, right? With this disgusting shit. The way that Trump's moving is like a guy that's guilty. And he can deflect all he wants to. He can have all these right-leaning content creators and jigs, right? Talk about Barack Obama. You can release all this declassified information now about Dr. King, and, probably talk about some of his escapades, and have some of these jigs talk about how he shouldn't have a holiday. You can do all this stuff to try to appease your base. At the end of the day, people want to know, really, why you release the Epstein files? People are not going to get off their square on this one. They're not. They're not going to get off of this. Release the files. I don't hear no distraction tactic about Barack Obama said this or Barack Obama. I'm not trying to hear that shit, man. Where is that fucking list? Pam Bondi said it was on her desk. Well, it just flew off her desk and into the wind of Washington air streets somewhere on a pond. Go find it. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it.